Ahoy there, mateys. How y'all doing? So good to have you back to enjoy Chapter 7, Old Salt Says. However, before we begin, I just want to remind you the last time we were together, at the end of the chapter, we left with the cliffhanger because the canine pirates had found the food for the Pirate Day party in the galley, which is the ship's kitchen. Curly walked in. Wow, there was a huge mess all over. So let's see where we take off from that episode. Old Salt Says, Chapter 7. Henry leaped across the mess and tried to block Curly's view of the kitchen. In case you were wondering, we have everything under control. Curly peered between Henry's legs. Under control? You call this mess under control? All the dogs backed away from her. When she was mad, her voice got very loud. But when she finally spoke again, Curly did not shout. The first mate sounded very calm. Half our crew is sick with sneezy noses and the stomach flu. The deck is filled with paint. The galley is a disaster. From what I can tell, things are not under control. In fact, we are not much closer to being ready for the Pirate Day banquet than we were this morning. We have until tomorrow to get this ship ready for the captain's favorite day of the year. I trusted all of you to help me. She looked around and shook her head sadly. You let me down. You let the captain down. Wally tucked his tail between his legs. Curly sat inside. I guess I need to find some way to break the news to the captain. No one said anything. It was terrible when Curly was angry, but somehow this was worse. She was disappointed in them. Ringing bells echoed from down the hall. Wally, Curly. Well, Curly took a deep breath. Sounds like Captain Redbeard and Old Salt both need help again. I will tend to the captain. Could someone else please check on Old Salt? I will, Curly, Wally offered. But first, do you want me to come with you to tell Captain about the party? It's not your fault. The day is ruined. Curly shook her head. No, I'll tell him myself. In the morning, after he's had a good night's rest. It was my job to make sure everything sailed right along on his sick day. I must take the blame. Curly's shoulders sagged. She turned and slunk out of the kitchen. Wally padded down toward Old Salt's quarters with his tail between his legs. His ears drooped. He felt terrible about disappointing Curly, not to mention Captain. Old Salt's bells rang again, and Wally sped up. He wasn't going to disappoint anybody else today. Maybe he couldn't fix the party mess, but he could at least help his favorite Bernese mountain dog. And just maybe, wise old Salt could help him too. Wally poked his nose into the room. Ahoy! How you feeling? Old Salt peeked at Wally from under a pile of blankets. He sneezed. I felt better, kid. He wheezed. How are you doing? How are things going up on deck? Everything's coming along for Captain Redbeard's big Pirate Day party? Wally hung his head. Not really, he admitted. We messed up. Now everything is ruined. I'm sorry to hear that, Old Salt grunted. Ugh. I guess when the cat's away, the mice will play. Wally cocked his head and was confused. We're dogs, he murmured. He reminded Old Salt, not cats. Old Salt began to laugh, and he chuckled to a cough. Achoo! He sneezed. Ah, Wally, boy, Old Salt chuckled. That's just an old saying. It means when the captain's gone, maybe everyone is goofing off a little more than they should. Oh, Wally said, giggling. That makes sense. Yes, that's it. Curly is the substitute captain, but it's not the same. Mm-mm. She's so busy taking care of the captain, steering the ship, and everything else. There's no one to tell us what to do. Achoo! You know, Wally, Old Salt hacked up a hairball. You know, Wally, being on a pirate crew isn't just about following captain's orders. There's a pirate code, kid. I know all about codes, Wally said. The captain wrote all the Pirate Day plans in code. We've been trying to crack them so we can figure out how to get the ship ready for the party. That's not the kind of code I'm talking about, Wally. Old Salt coughed again. Code. Code can also mean rules, kid. There are rules that a good pirate needs to follow. We help each other out. That's our way. It's our captain. If our captain is busy with other stuff, we've got to steer our own ship. We need to take responsibility. He coughed again. Sometimes, Wally, you've just got to be your own captain. And that concludes chapter 7. So I truly think we're getting very close to the climax of the story. I appreciate you staying tuned. So boys and girls, at the beginning, we saw Curly take a moment of silence, gather her thoughts. While all the others knew that when Curly was mad, would generally raise her voice and be very angry. This time, she took a different approach. She stayed calm, and she said, I'll go talk to Captain. I'll take responsibility. Basically, I'll take the blame for everything that had happened, despite the messy ship, the taking care of the sick dogs, and the disappointment in her shipmates. She still was willing to take the blame and be responsible because she was the leader. And the other dogs, they felt guilty, which is okay to feel that guilt because when you don't keep your commitments, it doesn't feel good. It really doesn't. So, it's important that we do keep our commitments. And then next we saw in the story that Old Salt chimed in, and he gave us some advice. His advice was steer your own ship. And he told Wally, you messed up, and it is what it is, but you steer your own ship. There's a pirate code. You got to keep it. You're part of this crew. And boys and girls, how you live your life is up to you. And you make your decisions to help make changes. Don't sit around waiting for others to tell you what to do. When you do what you must do, when you keep your commitments, you will manifest your greatness. And in all the time we spent together, week after week, I would see that greatness in little spurts here and there. You all have it in you. It's a part of each and every one of you. And I'm so glad that now your parents get to see it. So with that being said, I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to next week for Chapter 8. Ship ahoy, mateys.
Take yours away, my boys.